podcast today. Thank you, Boyan. And it is my incredible privilege to welcome you all to this call. We have a jam-packed hour with a lot of great updates to share with you. And for those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet before, my name is Taylor Hawkins. I know quite a lot of you either through my time with the Our Future Agenda team at UNF, as well as through the Network of Institutions for Future Generations. But I now focus on national level Future Generations work here in Australia, if the accent hasn't already given me away, and very pleased to share as my quick update that I'll sneak in early on here, that here in Australia, Monday this week, so just a couple of days ago, our Wellbeing of Future Generations bill was tabled in Parliament. So a little bit of progress happening over here on this side of the world. But with all of that being said, we have a few key focuses for this meeting today. Number one, we'll be sharing a few updates. I'll be passing to Jack in just a moment to share a little bit of where we've come from with this group and where we'll be heading. We'll then be sharing some really exciting opportunities to collaborate. We'll be passing to Dahlia a little later as well, and also setting the scene for the year ahead, looking at how we can work together as a group, what opportunities, as I said, for collaboration, and really leveraging the incredible power of this group to advance future generations' work collectively. But with all that being said, it is my pleasure, Jack, to hand over to you for some coalition updates.
Hello everyone, Pranam Da, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. For those who I haven't met, my name is Jacob Ellis, or Jack, based here in Wales in the United Kingdom, and I work as what am I? Who am I? I'm the Director for External Relations and Culture at the Office of the Future Generations Commissioner for Wales, but I'm one of the 4 co-leads for this ImPACT coalition. And thank you, Taylor, for chairing today's call. We tend to invite or give the opportunity for members to chair our ImPACT coalition call. So if you are inspired by Taylor's superb chairing, then please do reach out, because we're very keen that you have the opportunity to take to the floor as well. And take this opportunity, Taylor, to congratulate you and your Australian colleagues and many others across the world I know that have been encouraging you and your communities to get this over the line. So fingers crossed, it's the start. I appreciate. It's going to be a bit of a journey for you, but great stuff, and congratulations on behalf of the coalition. So just a few words from me. So many of you have joined us for our previous calls. You might be joining us today for the first one. So the ImPACT Coalition is one of 20 ImPACT coalitions that formed in the Civil Society Conference placed last year. If you're interested to know about the others, I'll pop a link into the chat shortly that will guide you to connecting with the other ImPACT coalitions. Various topics and policy areas, and many actually of the ImPACT coalition coalitions co-leads or chairs from the other groups are on the call as well. And perhaps during the spotlight later on, an opportunity for members to come in, perhaps I can invite you to share any updates or alignment with today's conversations and your work in other ImPACT coalitions. We also have a website that is live, and I'll pop the link into that in a moment as well. An opportunity for us to signpost others to see exactly what the purpose of the ImPACT coalition is. And as a result of the hard work of members on this call at previous meetings and the co-leads, we now have a clear work plan for the coalition, the areas of work that we're going to be advocating for and championing over the course of the year. That will lead us to developing an action plan, a timeline for the year ahead. There are several key moments, both in the UN calendar, but also in the multilateral space as well, opportunities for us to take advantage of, to seek to support, to challenge where appropriate. And I know many are keen to do that as we continue to advocate and support member states to implement the Declaration on Future Generations, which we will have a refresher from Dahlia later on. I mentioned the website. Can I just politely nudge and prompt you as well to reach out to us with your logos, if you have them, on behalf of your organisation, so that we can demonstrate, to highlight the vast number of organisations who are part of the coalition as well. And then finally, we will be working on some materials that you can take with you to meetings or to events, briefings and such, so that you can continue to talk about the aims of the coalition, encourage people to get involved, and be clear on our advocacy asks within the coalition as well. I think that might be enough from me at this stage. He checks his notes. Yes, you might hear from me later on as I go. Oh, there's and that thing and that thing and that thing. But I think that's enough for now. I'm going to hand over next to Nigeri, who is on the screen with us. So since the last call, we have been working with Nigeri. Nigeri is very an expert in the field of sustainable development, in future generations, in futures landscape across the world, in the ecosystem that we're navigating in, and Nigeri has very kindly agreed to join as co-lead for the ImPACT Coalition. So it makes complete sense for us to hear from Nigeri, for her to introduce herself. And again, my thanks on behalf of Alimi, myself, and Hashani to Nigeri for joining as co-lead.
Thank you. And hi, everyone. Warm greetings from Cape Town. I did put a bit of information about myself in the chat. It's a real pleasure to join this ImPACT Coalition and to meet you all, hoping that we'll have an opportunity to meet more frequently, interact more in depth during our sort of check-ins with each other, and as we grow sort of shared agendas and priority strategic areas we'd like to have impact in. I'm very excited about this initiative. I've been part of the conversations on future generations sort of since the early offset, and I was really pleased to be able to attend the Summit of the Future as well, and to put together some action days and just be part of that conversation and see a lot of the work come to fruition. Very committed now to ensure that the momentum we've been building can continue and the gains we're making can translate into these aspirations that we're communicating, into these aspirations that we're committing to. So I see my participation here very much in line with that orientation. I am my work is in futures, in strategic foresight. I do consider myself a futurist in that I have a personal and professional interest with long-term strategic planning. My work, the way I try to occupy space in the world is very much with a consciousness about the sort of intergenerational conversations, both understanding where we've come from and bearing in mind the responsibility and accountability for those that will come after us. And yeah, creating a better world, if I may get onto my soapbox briefly, for as many people as possible. Otherwise, my interests are in issues around leadership. I also teach at the business school here, the Stellenbosch Business School. So interact with private, public sector, also civil society, key decision makers, driving processes around long-term strategic planning that are multi-stakeholder based. I am based on the continent. I'm from Kenya originally. I live in South Africa, Cape Town. I've had an opportunity to live in a few other African countries. So my area of focus geographically tends to be the continent, but I consider myself, a global citizen and linked in with a larger human family as well. That's a brief intro to me. And yeah, looking forward to taking the conversations further as we continue with the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jerry. And I think that's a testament to the incredible leadership that we have across our co-chairs with Hashani, who I can see has just joined us, and Jerry, Jack, and Alimi as well, who will be taking that great leadership role, bringing this group along. And now I'm looking gently at Jack to confirm I can't see Derek currently on the call. And so we might jump to Dawia's update, if I get a little nod from Jack that I should do that rather than filling a little bit of time to give Derek a second.
I'm hoping that he is imminently making his way through the virtual walls towards us.
Well, what I can do is, Erica, you sent me a direct message. I'm not sure how long your invitation will go for, but you did send me a request whether you could share a quick invitation with the group. from the European Commission. So if it's a quick update, I can invite you to share that quickly, and then we'll pass to Derek straight after that.
Super great. So I'm part of the Policy Lab of the Joint Research Center in the European Commission, and we are hosted to work on the intergenerational fairness strategy of Commissioner McAuliffe, who's leading this in the European Commission. And we set up a process, a year-long process to really explore, dive deep, make the connections and everything. And I'm happy to share more about that. But for now, the invite is that we are opening up and we're launching this process on the 20th of February in the JRC in Brussels. I can share the registration link and everything in the chat, but you're all very much invited. And we'd love to see you there and join if you can. And of course, this is not possible for everybody else, for everybody that's not in Brussels or around. So we will come with an invite for online later. But those who are in the opportunity to come, the commissioner will share his ideas, and then we'll go into an interactive co-creation process. So even if you cannot make it, if you think others want to or would want to, feel free to share. And we hope to come back on this more. But already for this, thank you for giving me the time to share this.
Thank you so much, Erica. And that stands as an invitation to anyone else on the call. If you have updates, information to share, it's very much what this space is for. So either dropping it in the chat or letting us know. And if we have space in the agenda later on, we'll definitely jump across to that. But Erica, your timing is perfect because we have just had wonderful Derek Walker arrive, Future Generations Commissioner for Wales, who is our member spotlight today. So Derek, over to you.
Jock Taylor, hello everyone. Prananda, good to see so many friendly, familiar faces. Thanks for inviting me to come and say a few words. It's very timely to be joining this group, I guess, in particular, because this year we are marking 10 years of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act in Wales, which is an important milestone about the progress that we've made in the last 10 years and an opportunity to review what's worked and what we could do better. And so it's an opportunity this year where we are going out, not just internationally, but within Wales, to talk about the legislation and renew our dialogue and our connection and our contract with the people of Wales, because as many of you will know, because I will have said it before, one of the important things that we did at the outset of this legislation was hold a national conversation with the people of Wales about the future that they wanted for our country, which has been enacted through the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. So this year, we will be going out and about and using events, hijacking events that already exist to try and speak to as many people as possible about the legislation, raise awareness, but also increase people's capacity about the how we deliver on this agenda in Wales, which is really needed. So really important year. 29th of April will be the 10th anniversary date, and on that date we will launch something called the Future Generations Report, which Jack is busy coordinating for us at the moment. It's a big amount of work, and Jack, as you would imagine, has done a brilliant job of doing that. But it's my assessment, our office's assessment of progress over the last 10 years and what we need to see happen in Wales to make more progress in the years ahead. And I haven't got time to really do it proper justice in this conversation here today. But I just wanted to highlight it because clearly having legislation is crucially important to making sure that long-term commitments to future generations is part of the everyday delivery of public institutions, governments, local authorities, and so forth. But it's only part of the story. We've got the legislation, but so much more, of course, needs to happen if we are going to.
What's the content? It's not even that stuff. The guy only has two this thing. No, even the
it's quiet now, isn't it? I can
Yeah, it
carry
is.
on.
Please go for it.
You're all frozen, but hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me, Taylor?
Yes, we
We can
can.
hear
Please go
you.
for it.
Great. So legislation clearly important, but so much more needs to happen in order to deliver on the things that we want to deliver on. Our analysis has shown quite a positive picture. So, very good support, particularly amongst leaders within our public sector organizations for this legislation. So that's great after 10 years, people believing in it, supporting it, wanting to do the right things. In many places, we are seeing the solutions being implemented. So, we have the solutions. It's about implementing them more widely is the key challenge. What we are struggling with in the UK is financial resources. So we've got net zero targets for our public institutions, but we are struggling with the resources to deliver on those targets. So we've got to find new and better ways to harness private sector income to achieve those targets. So I'm certainly not going to be calling for those targets to be removed, far from it. But we've got to admit to the fact that if we carry on as we are, we're not going to meet them. So how can we how can we renew the energy to meet on those sorts of targets? Again, in the context of our finances in the UK at the moment, budgets for long-term prevention activities to prevent things occurring for generations to come are being cut to a greater extent than other budgets. So we're asking for those sorts of budgets to be ring-fenced, so we protect the interests of future generations in a systematic way by ring-fencing those prevention type expenditure budgets, which can be cut if they're just part of a larger pot. We're also seeing, and I think around the world, this is not just the Trump effect, but we're seeing increasing resistance from community groups, who are feeling left out. Voting levels are going down. People feeling disconnected and not seeing their needs met sometimes, and sometimes that is making it difficult for our decision makers to implement the kind of decisions that we need to see taken in the interests of future generations. So we are also calling and making recommendations about how we do a better job of involving people and communicating with people around the decisions that are required. So that doesn't mean on weakening our ambition, but it does mean that we won't achieve our ambitions if we don't engage. So we have to understand where we can bring people along with us, where the compromises are, or where the things can be done to support to meet people's concerns, whilst also delivering on the big agendas that we want to deliver on. So in Wales, we certainly need to be better at these sorts of use of new technology, better participation techniques to really think how we continue to connect to people in delivery of this legislation. So those are some of the things that we'll be talking about. We'll also be talking about a very dominant growth narrative around the economy that is prominent within the UK government since the last election, and that isn't the approach we've taken in Wales. We've taken the approach of a well-being economy where we have a broader basket of measures of success, and I will be making a call that we don't get drawn into that prominent narrative, but we take our own path, which has that broader well-being approach to economic development. So much more I could be saying, but an important moment in the lifetime of our legislation and in my role, where I'm able to give this statutory advice to public bodies about what we expect them to do over the next few years. The international work, just to close, the international work and interest we've had in the Welsh model, I think it's probably increased. It was already high, but since September and the UN Summit of the Future, the declaration and the pact, it's great that we've had an increasing level of interest to understand our model and how it might be applied to other countries. And we are trying to surface as much of that interest as possible, working with the NFIG and other colleagues. And Taylor in particular, it's fantastic to see what you're doing in Australia. I've been following the work that's going on there, but fantastic also to see that happen in other parts of the world too. So we'll be playing our role in making the case where we can and supporting other people's efforts to take similar approaches in their own countries and regions. So I'll stop there because I've already talked on for more than 5 minutes, but hopefully that's been useful, Taylor. Diolch yn fawr.
It absolutely has. Thank you, Derek. And look, your ears must have been burning this week because the amount of people I've been speaking to about the Welsh example and how we're trying to follow in your footsteps is significant. And also a big thank you to you as well as the many other people on this call who reviewed our research. And I think it's such a testament to the necessity of groups like this where we can share learnings in different countries and accelerate the movement overall. What you said about the cutting of preventative policy budgets is such an important thing for us to focus on. It's something that we have focused on a lot here in Australia, is doing research into the return on investment on preventative policy, because it makes such an astoundingly strong argument for this work. Here in Australia, you get a return of $14 to every $1 spent on preventative health policy. And so when you're able to make those sorts of arguments, big nod from Derek, it's a really powerful thing to try and protect those budgets. But with that, we'll now be moving on to hear from the wonderful Dawia, who'll be telling us about the Atlas for Guardians. I do encourage everyone, I think we will have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end of her presentation, so do get your questions coming in. You can drop them in the chat and we'll make sure that we come to them at the end. But Dawia, over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Dawia Shalali. I work with the United Nations University Center for Policy Research, and basically we're a think tank for the UN. Hearing from Derek, hearing from Taylor, and hearing from Erica also, we can see that there is a huge amount of energy and care put into this work of caring for future generations and creating the pathways and systems that do create the necessary infrastructures and incentives for these to carry on over several lifespans. So in the face of the context also of backsliding of democracy and other public expenditures, for example, I think we need to be very strategic in how we engage with this future generations narrative and framework, so that we can continue to diffuse this narrative that is a counter narrative to everything that we're hearing daily on the news, and that I won't repeat again here. So hopefully this space, the ImPACT Coalition, will remain the space for building hope and building our, I dare to say, resistance to all of these movements. At the same time, what happened at the UN in September through the Declaration on Future Generations, just for a reminder, gave a huge impulse, a new impulse at the multilateral level to continue and carry on this work. Some of the paragraphs in the Declaration on Future Generations are very concrete and clear, and set kind of an agenda and a roadmap for the years to come. For example, we have in paragraph 24, leveraging science, data, statistics, and strategic foresight, to improve institutional reforms. We have paragraph 26, for example, that encourages to develop stronger anticipatory risk analysis and encourage the use of measures of progress beyond GDP, for example. We also have paragraph 29 that encourages intergenerational partnerships and promoting a whole society approach, which is very much what we're doing here in this space. And as we can see, as Derek said, Taylor and Erica put forth, there is a growing number of these initiatives. And as at the same time, during the Summit of the Future, the UN system pledged their commitment to appoint a Special Envoy in future generations, there is a huge opportunity for us to prepare the ground for its incoming role. And for that, UNU CPR is proposing something that might be interesting for some of you. First of all, because you have already put some contributions to that, but also for the broader community, which would be the development of an atlas for the guardians. The idea of this atlas for the guardians would be to have a worldwide map of the initiatives on future generations, whether they are institutions for future generations, so for example, parliamentary committees or ombudspersons like Derek. This platform could also help us visualize the legal frameworks for future generations that are existing or incoming. And Taylor, you might directly input after that, actually. And also to spot summits, recurring events, and capacity building programs. The idea for this platform would be to be an open data platform. Basically, you feeding that platform so that every time you encounter in your research a new initiative on future generations, you can have a centralized platform where to feed in so that, first of all, everyone can see it. And second of all, so we kind of centralize the data. And I know, for example, the Network of Institutions for Future Generations has started to do this work. And second of all, I think it will be of great use for the Special Envoy when it will come to office, just to say, here is the available data we have about all of the Future Generations initiative around the world. And this has been fed, and this is a direct contribution from civil society coming from the ImPACT Coalition. So let me just share my screen if Taylor, okay, I do have the authorizations necessary. I will share my screen with you just to briefly show you the prototype for this platform. Basically, this would be on the UNUCPR website, we would have a worldwide map. And then you would be able to click on different items, either institutions for future generations, and then you would be able to visualize where are the current institutions that mention directly future generations, the legal framework, summits, events, and capacity building programs. And for each, when you click on, for example, an institution for future generations, you would be able to have a description, news, people to contact, resources, research, and articles. So this is really a response to our collective effort and our collective contribution to the mandate of the Special Envoy, but not only, also for us as a community that cares for future generations. Where are the best practices that I can take example from, and who are the people that I can contact all over the world that can help me in that endeavor? So with that, I think I can give you a few minutes, maybe let's say 4 minutes, just to give you some time to feedback on this. Are there any items that are missing? Because the mapping is around institutions, legal frameworks, summits, and events, but maybe there are some things that I'm missing here and that you would see, you would love to see reflected here in this worldwide map. And is there anything that you would advise on how to launch that? For the moment, what I have envisaged is to share a Google form, and then I would be editing and feeding the platform for later publication. So I would do the heavy lifting work of treating the information. So I'm seeing questions here. Is there a working group regarding finance and funding strategy development for the future generations efforts? And does the mapping include financing funding? I'm not sure how this mapping could support the visualization. I think this is maybe a conversation that we can keep on having here as the ImPACT Coalition. I don't know what you think about Jack, Taylor, Alimi in general, but I'm not sure that this corresponds to the kind of research, so the data aggregation map that we want to have. But I'm happy to consider it also if this is a more widespread need. I'm looking at the other comments. We have an approach to implementing intergenerational equity. Not sure what that would appear on the map. Okay, thank you. Keep that coming. I will make sure it is reflected. Don't worry, I will find the boxes. I will do the work of editing the data. Maybe a data highlights tab that shares interesting key data points on future generations around the world, populations numbers, climate change indicators, etc. And for that, maybe Pele, Harshani, you have some kinds of clues. Maybe you have on our future agenda platform some bits of information around that. Don't want to single you out, but I know that you are on your website. You do have a huge stream of work, and I will let you maybe comment on that or future agenda. And in the meantime, I will try and link the website here. Jack, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Daria, for doing two things. A gentle reminder on the areas covered in the declaration. I did post the link in the chat. One thing we don't have currently, because members will be aware that the declaration on future generations is annexed to the pact. Every time I look for the link to the declaration, I have to link the whole pact for the future and the annexes, and having then to scroll down to the declaration. Maybe there's a quick win somewhere there to encourage our UN colleagues to produce a PDF of just the declaration. That might be something that we can do. But knowing that there's a connection between the pact might be the rationale behind incorporating it all. I digress in my point. The link is in the chat for those who want to find more detail about the declaration. And I certainly think that this atlas and this platform is necessary and would be helpful as a live tracker, for want of a better kind of way as well, of continuing to see a baseline increase from what we know currently are the current institutions or the current ongoing events and discussions. And the hope is that as a result of the declaration and the platform like this and grassroots activism and advocacy, is that the numbers would increase on the map over time. I'm very mindful that there are a few organizations who might have started some of this work, and how we make sure that what we create is complementary to others. And I'm hoping that we can introduce different languages as well, resources that are in multiple languages, that not just in English or in French. So I'm particularly keen for colleagues on the call to share with us and with Daria any resources in any language that might reference or have a connection to Futures and Foresight and Future Generations activity. And then my final point was the trick here is how we can then encourage member states to know that this platform would exist. I'm getting ahead of myself slightly in knowing that the platform isn't yet operational. But I can see this becoming quite a useful resource to be able to guide officials in governments to say, well, if I'm looking for good practice, if I'm looking for ideas of resources, if I'm looking to join an event or a program to learn more, this one-stop shop, this platform might be able to provide them with some of the answers around that. So I'm excited by it. Very much would like it to be a co-developed, co-designed initiative, and Daria is nodding and very keen, I'm sure, to continue the conversations ahead of our next call. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And Sophie, I saw your hand up momentarily. Did you have something you want to add there?
Thanks, Taylor. Sorry, sorry I was late and I missed a bit of that update. But just to come in on the tail end to say, we in the School of International Futures also been collating quite a lot of information along similar lines, but I suppose digging a bit deeper in terms of some of the countries we're directly working with. So happy to sort of share that and work out how we sort of bring all of that together and so on. And it'd be really great to have a kind of shared platform, which I think is what you're developing, Dario. So that's really exciting. So we'll do a catch up anyway, Dario. Sorry, we've been missing each other, but yeah, I'll get in touch about that.
Perfect. And I'll linger momentarily. There was mention of the great work being done by the Our Future Agenda team. Pele, or I can't see if Ashani's still on the call. Do either of you want to hop in on that?
No, yeah, I can just say briefly, yes, we have been putting out some research mainly based on UN population statistics. So I think also here, in the collaborative effort, we need to involve some of the agencies that have very good data. And I don't know if anyone from UN Future Lab is on this call, but I guess there are resources that we can tap into at the UN. But we also did a very interesting exercise looking a bit more widely on the kinds of institutions that have a future focus, and publicized a small text about these initiatives that we absolutely should try and feed into this platform. So great initiative, and we'll try to contribute our best with those. And of course, those are country examples, and we need to have the initiatives taking this on to themselves as well. So we need to get buy-in from them and seeing them as part of our community as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pele. And unfortunately, role as chair, I must stick us to our schedule a little bit, but I'm sure Daria will put some contact details in the chat because it looks like there's very much a conversation to be continued on that. Jack, I can see your hand is up before we jump to our next segment.
Forgive me, Taylor. As all I wanted to kind of illustrate an obvious point, which is Daria approached me and the coalition with kind of an idea and a thought, and can I have an opportunity to kind of share this? And I would just encourage others that might be working on pieces of work or seeking to develop a nugget of an idea and wants to kind of use the coalition members and the networks and the connections more generally to build on that idea. This is your space to kind of bring ideas, presentations, updates, be those in a small ideation mind mapping question, or indeed there was a question above around financing. And just to say that we had a brief conversation at the last meeting about working groups. We haven't solidified or developed that in greater detail at this stage. But I would be happy to work with, and forgive me, the name is now up in the chat, but work with that person to identify a slot at a future meeting to have a dedicated conversation about finance and future generations, and that might help us unpack what the actions that we may or may not take as a coalition. But this is your space, and I just wanted to illustrate that Daria was taking advantage of the moment, and others can do so too.
Fantastic. Yes, I think between Sol and Zachary, there's quite a few people jumping in wanting to continue that chat with you, Daria. So please do drop sort of some next steps instructions in there. But with that, so that we give you enough time, I'll be passing to Elimi now for a membership update. Over to you, Elimi.
All right. Thank you, Taylor. My name is Alimi, and I'm going to be giving you an exciting update. For instance, the Kenyan Permanent Mission of, to the UN is organizing a series of dialogue on the Declaration of Future Generations and the African Union. So tomorrow we are having the first kind of that conversation. Then, the office of the governor of Delta State in Nigeria is considering, having a kind of, future directorate of future generations at the office. So we are getting some buy-in from the deputy speaker of the house and some relevant politicians and, member of key government office. So that's another one. Then at Partnership for Future Generations in Africa, we are running a pilot project, and we are coming up with the resident ambassador for future generations in Africa. And the aim is to have advocate for future generations in all the 54 or 55 countries of Africa. And currently we are running a pilot project in Kenya, Nairobi, and Nigeria, where we have resident ambassador for future generations and kicking off, conversation. Then I will pass the ball to maybe Diana West or Sophie to tell us about what is happening at the School of International Futures. Yeah, over to you, Diana or Sophie.
Hello. Go ahead, Sophie.
Sorry, I just had to answer the door and I missed what you said. What you said, Alimi. You just wanted an update, was it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot going on, and I'll ask Deanna to chip in as well. We have been supporting a number of countries across Europe through some funding from the European Climate Foundation to develop this sort of concept of kind of in-country hubs. So we're working to a model that we kind of call the SWOF prism. So this is looking at our understanding from working across a range of countries on what are the things that or the areas that we need to drive progress on in order to embed an intergenerationally fair system designed to achieve well-being. And that there are kind of, if you think about it as a triangle, those three parts are you need to have citizens and civil society engaged in building a movement. You need to have political champions, and then you need to have capability and capacity within the system. So within your kind of civil service and your government officials and your local government officials and so on. What's been happening in Australia is like a really good example of that. So Taylor and colleagues building kind of momentum and a movement across civil society in its broadest sense, across not just the people who are initially interested in futures, but across kind of alliances with health, with environmental NGOs and so on, with academia, with the media and with business. Then obviously identifying those political champions. And then there's, some interesting stuff already going on within the system in Australia, as in, there's a futures unit in the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet and so on. So the way that we're working really is to try to work out how could we establish hubs in country which would help to drive that sort of progress. So we've been working with Spain, Portugal, Ireland and Finland, European based for this particular programme because it's the European Climate Fund, to establish hubs which are going to drive progress across those those three areas, sorry. They were chosen because they are all at different stages of their journey. So Finland, if you like, pretty well advanced, that, an early adopter in terms of a committee for the future, and so on. And yet there's perhaps been less, therefore, of a kind of civil society engagement in it. And even though there are some political champions, perhaps they need kind of re-engaging. Ireland, really interesting because that there was momentum through a private members bill in the Irish Parliament, but really there was a kind of lone political champion there. We've been helping to build civil society and helping civil society to make connections into government. Part of a tool that we've been using to do that is something that we've developed called a kind of readiness assessment. So looking at the Future Generations Declaration and really putting in place a kind of criteria, and the hubs in each of those countries have been using that readiness assessment to have conversations across civil society and particularly with government to test where their country is at, where their system is at in terms of readiness to adopt the declaration. That's still a bit of a work in progress because we developed that to pilot with these hubs and we're learning some lessons from that. But if anyone wants more information on that, please let us know. And sorry, I'm not going to talk much longer, but then just to say as well, and perhaps Deanna can come in, we've been convening some interesting parties across the US, where, as you can imagine, at a federal level, there's not a huge amount of appetite for this at the moment, but actually at a state level, there's quite a lot of interest and there's some interesting programs developing across different states. We are about to convene the ANU and an event in Kenya, building on the momentum there from the political side in terms of aspirations for a kind of Future Generations Act and a parliamentary caucus in the Kenyan Senate. And we also have some proposals in train to do some similar work in Brazil. I could bang on and on about other countries that we are more loosely engaged with, but I'm sure you'll all be better placed than me to do that. And then perhaps, I don't know, perhaps Deanna might just want to say something about plans in the multilateral space very briefly.
Thanks. I'll be super brief. Just to complement Sophie's sharing of information of what we're doing sort of at the country level. Alimi, thank you so much for sharing the dialogue series. As Sophie said, we've been supporting various countries with national level implementation, which we see as the kind of biggest opportunity that the Declaration on Future Generations provides in terms of giving momentum and energy to this. And at the multilateral space, there's a real opportunity this year in particular with many important kind of summits and intergovernmental processes happening around social development, financing for development, and South Africa hosting the G20 that we see as, kind of leverage points to amplify country level work in the multilateral space. And so we're doing that through engagement in those specific opportunities, and very, very happy to work with others on those, how we can really amplify messages at the multilateral level. But one specific way that we're doing it as well is engaging with the group of friends on future generations and the Kenyan mission, as Alimi mentioned, where we're all co-hosting a dialogue series together, connecting national level innovations with these global policy discussions. And the first one, as Alimi said, is tomorrow, really focusing on the opportunities for Africa and African Union members ahead of the summit, the African Union Summit, taking place later this week. And so there's just real opportunity to connect the dots between what's happening at the country and regional level with the discussions taking place at the multilateral. And we're, just very interested to partner with members of the ImPACT Coalition to really amplify these voices and these innovations. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Diana. Yeah, before I give the ball to Nodara, Tillman, and Rachel, I would like to mention that we are having the African Futures Summit, and unfortunately, Esther had to run to another meeting. So we are exploring ways to, have collaborators in terms of contributing to the discussions. Then hopefully, if you are interested, kindly reach out to me, then I will connect you to Esther. Then over to Nudara, Tillman, or Rachel, some update, please.
As we are rapidly encroaching the end of our time for this update section, Elimi, do you want to send a quick message to those who you're waiting on updates from? And maybe while we wait for them to be available, David, did you want to jump in?
I just wanted to jump in very briefly. Thank you, Taylor, and lovely to see you all. As you know, I've been concerned that not enough of the general public really understand or know about the Declaration on Future Generations. And my organization, Peace Child International's mission is about getting young people to harness the arts in the service of peace. And I'm pleased to say that in Jacob's home country, we're launching a new Peace Child to promote the Declaration on Future Generations and explore its impact, which we then will be taking to the Ljubljana Festival in Slovenia. And we've just heard today from UNDGC that they've actually reserved the UN General Assembly to have this new Peace Child show promoting young people, promoting the Declaration on Future Generations at the 80th anniversary UN Day concert on October the 24th. So I shall be letting you have more official announcements about that in the near future. But I hope you can all use the materials that we develop for those shows to promote young people to become ambassadors for the Declaration and get more people knowing about it and talking about it and implementing its provisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. And the beauty of one-on-one Zoom messages, I now know we have Nadara ready to go.
Sorry, just multitasking between different things going on here in New York. Just a couple, I think more, maybe I'll wear my C4UN hat for updates, and more kind of general ImPACT Coalition updates rather than anything else. So this was already communicated to co-leads. I know Jack mentioned it at the beginning of the call, but Coalition for the UN We Need will be supporting and stepping in as a kind of back-end secretariat system for impact coalitions across the board. So we're hoping to facilitate like knowledge sharing across impact coalitions. We're thinking of doing like briefings. So for example, we've heard a lot of organizations say, hey, what's going on with FFD4? And so could the Financing for Development and International Financial Architecture Impact Coalition maybe do a briefing for people who are interested in that type of thing? We're looking at kind of various ways to support impact coalitions. This one being one that's like we probably do need to do the least supporting of because it's so, you know, engaged and functional and we're great. But just even if it's just sort of sharing knowledge between different impact coalitions, having a one-stop shop so that you can find out what's going on in other coalitions as well. So that's a stream of work CFUN will be engaging in. We're also hoping to restart regional futures forums over the year. So try to get a gauge of at the regional level what are priorities and and kind of areas of work on PACT implementation and progress, hoping to then have a global futures forum in 2026, regional again in 27 and global in 28. And then aside from that, at each kind of every other year, so 26, 28, we're hoping to produce a civil society review of PACT implementation. And that's something that we'll definitely reach out to all the impact coalitions about because we really would prefer for it to be a kind of consolidated narrative from impact coalitions than kind of CFUN producing something on its own. So that's just a kind of flag. From the kind of global governance innovation network side, we're seeing how we can support the group of friends. We'll be at the SWAF event tomorrow, and just trying to generally see how we can facilitate, given we were supporting the DFG process earlier in the year. I think that's largely it from me, but happy to elaborate on anything specific if there are questions.
Thank you so much, Nadara, and you have us bang on time for the agenda, so thank you so much for that. I'm now passing to Christine from the Zoe Institute for another member spotlight. Are you on the call? And oh, there you are. Over to you.
Yep. Hi, thanks. So I'm Christine from Zoe Institute for Future Fit Economies. Just in case you don't know us, we're a think tank based in Germany, working a lot on the EU level and also a bit around Europe, and a little bit on future generations topics more internationally. We've been working on future generations governance for a bit over a year. I and another colleague were at the Summit of the Future, and I recognize a lot of faces who I met in New York. And we also worked a lot on proposals for a Future Generations Commissioner at the EU level. And we're very excited that we now have a Commissioner for Intergenerational Fairness in the EU, as Erica shared earlier with this upcoming exercise in Brussels. And yes, just in case you don't know, I'll share just 2 seconds of information about the EU. So the commissioner was appointed in December for a 5-year term as part of the new European College of Commissioners. And he'll be responsible for intergenerational fairness along with youth, culture, and sport. The idea being that the intergenerational fairness is then like a more umbrella lens going over all of this work. And so, yeah, I won't share much about the strategy since Erica did a bit of sharing earlier, and I recommend to scroll up in the chat and find her invitation if you didn't see that earlier for the stakeholder consultation exercise they're doing. But building on this European momentum and the international momentum from the Summit of the Future, we had an event about 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, on the 24th of January, to bring together both of these lenses. So looking at the EU's role in the world for intergenerational fairness and future generations. We had this intergenerational town hall in partnership with the United Nations Foundation. We have Boyan and Pele and Harshani here. So thanks to all of you for your support in that. This was in person, and I see a lot of faces who I recognize from that event. And it was not hybrid, so I don't have any recordings I can share with you, but I will share a little log I wrote on our website, which has some recap of what we did there. We had a panel, which was great. We had also 4 parallel discussions on beyond GDP, citizen engagement and building trust, financing the future, financing the transition, and also one on the intergenerational fairness strategy that Erica spoke about earlier. That's the responsibility of the commissioner. And we had a lot of great speakers for all of those sessions and for the panel and some opening and closing. It was a really great event overall. We had 70 something people there. You could really feel the energy in the room, I think. And it was really exciting to talk about this as a whole and also bring in all these different topics to show people that intergenerational fairness really is about all of these things coming together. It's really not its own topic to focus on. Future Generations isn't a topic, its own bubble, but really a lens to look at all of our work in all of these areas. And this blog I linked has a couple links to guest articles by some of our speakers who were there. Also, there's one on Beyond GDP and one on the civic participation and trust in government. So I recommend having a look at that. And yeah, I know we're running out of time, so I tried to do that really quickly. But yeah, so we're looking to also keep an eye on this work and continue this momentum. And this is my first time attending the ImPACT Coalition, but it's great to see you all here.
Thank you so much for that speedy update. And you are right, we are very close to the end of this call. So Samuel, I'll ask you for a very rapid fire contribution.
So my name is Samuel Joseph from Children and Youth Major Group to United Nations Environment Program, CUMG UNEP. We are a youth constituency to UNEP. So on the silent of the Summit of the Future, we convened the Youth Forum on the Future of Environment. And to follow up the Youth Forum on the Future of Environment, just to be quick, we are going to launch a resource paper on the environmental dimension on the Pact for the Future, Declaration on Future Generation, as well as the Global Digital Compact. So right now, I lead a research team working on it, and we are going to finalize the paper, and we're going to launch it soon. And probably I will email the admin of the ImPACT Coalition mailing list, maybe to also share this to the mailing list, maybe if any of you want to attend. Want to attend the meeting. And then lastly, maybe to close, I think right now we are going to also welcome the World Summit on Social Development in Qatar later this year. So I believe this will be another important momentum for all of us to really consolidate something, because the summit is actually another summit following up the Summit of the Future. After the first one was Education, Summit of the Future, and then the Social Summit. So yeah, I think that's all. And the resource paper will be available in our website as well later on. Thank you.
Samuel, that was very impressive. You fit a lot into a very short amount of time, so thank you for heeding my request. I'm going to jump and drop something into the chat. So we have the membership form. If you haven't already completed this, please do and circulate with all others that you think should be brought into this group. We also have the next meeting set for June, and Jack has informed me that there is great encouragement for everyone from the group to reach out, write blogs, let's amplify the work, because I can say, as someone who's doing a lot of this work nationally, it's incredibly affirming to be part of this network and to hear all the great traction happening globally. So I think if we can expand that beyond these calls, that is nothing but incredibly valuable. But with that, thank you all for taking the time to join. I'm sure further comms will be coming to you soon. Jack, anything you want to add before we wrap up? No? Perfect. Thank you all. Have a lovely day, and we'll speak to you soon.